Hey man, when I started playing PoE 2 and reached my Atlas, I was a bit confused. From one point, the impressions were great. The Atlas is beautiful, has lots of interesting new stuff and lots of potential. I hate these freaking towers, I do, but in my opinion they are just basic concept that will be improved later. From another point, I almost instantly felt I'm missing old PoE 1 Atlas. This sense of completion, you moving into unknown, reach the end, and then you can change and modify it how you like. Make it more difficult, make it more diverse, play your favorite map as much as you want, or play different maps, or make a few favorite maps you can play as much as you want. But it's only my personal liking, so I won't bother you longer with it. Let's move on. Before we continue, I need to quickly tell you what is Delve in PoE 1. If you're already familiar with Delve, you can skip to the next chapter.
The Exile's back.
Delve is so-called league mechanic. Leagues are seasons in PoE 1 and I am almost certain leagues will be in PoE 2. After the end of that particular league, it became permanent part of the game. There is a separate location, a huge, endless, mysterious mine, which you can explore for unique challenges and treasures. Now let's move to my theory, or you can call it my belief. I feel that current PoE 2 Atlas is a Delve template. GGG didn't have their Atlas ready for early access launch, either completely or mechanically, or they just didn't want to reveal it at this phase of the game to keep massive surprises and content for the actual launch. But they had Delve template, fully or partially complete. So they used it as temporary replacement. A few comparisons. Delve is almost infinite, so is new Atlas. Delve has different biomes and based on nodes. Each node is separate zone. Same we see here. What about depth? In Delve, the deeper you go into the mine, the more difficulty and reward scales. It is not the case in new Atlas. But if we consider starting point as depth 0, then we can go to any direction, and depth will be measured by distance to the starting point. In other words, it's Delve 3D. I doubt it will be a mine lore-wise, since we are gonna to explore relatively horizontally. I also had thoughts that current Atlas could be 2019 PoE 1 synthesis memory map Rebirth, which, if I am not mistaken, become inspiration for the last Epoch and game Atlas system. But for now I discarded this idea, since Delve has more obvious connections. My conspiracy theory doesn't end here.
Can you hear them walking around down there? Still scrabbling at the walls and floors. Empire's been dead for thousands of years.
Let's move to Trial of Sanctum. I know it is obvious to everyone that it is complete copy of Sanctum League from PoE 1. My point is, the current trials for ascendancy points are temporary too. They had Sanctum League or its parts ready for early access launch, so they used it as template for trials of ascendancy. You see, Sanctum is very specific league mechanic. Not everyone likes it. I hated it so much in PoE 1 that I skipped that league completely, since it has big gameplay difference with usual PoE experience, where taking hits can fail you a run. That is where comes into play. In my humble opinion, serves second template for future separate trials of Ascendancy for players who hate Sanctum and prefers classic Poe gameplay, where you can take hits if you are tanky enough. Still not convinced? I got more. Sanctum League release was in 2022. That means it was released in a point of time in which Poe 2 was already 2 or more years in development. I assume they could make Sanctum League technically compatible with Poe 2 because they already been familiar with new engine, its possibilities and its requirements. GGG started to add different small things from Poe 2 to Poe 1 long ago, like effects or sounds or other details. It is safe to assume they could start to prepare something for both games at that point. Is 2021 League. First, GGG said it will return in some way later. Second, it did return not long ago in Poe 1, so they worked on it for both games. And now we see it as a trial of Ascendancy in Poe 2. They used it because it was somehow ready for Poe 2 in early access timeline.
Know how the mortal I once was would have felt about certain things. That man would have hated Doryani with a passion for bringing about the fall of the greatest civilization this world has ever known. Through the grace of chaos, I now understand that all things that can happen, do. Even now, I'm testing the might of another survivor who washed up on Rayclast instead of you. And to her, you are dead. All that you accomplish is meaningless. All that Doryani ruined was equally meaningless.
These are all just my assumptions. The future will tell if I'm right. Meanwhile, I would like to know how weird my theory looks from outside. Please share your thoughts. Do you believe what we are seeing now is basic version of Poe 2 Atlas system? And do you like an idea of separate league mechanics being a way to get Ascendancy points? Or you are like me, waiting for Poe 1 Labyrinth analog? Thank you for watching. Stay safe, Exile.
Bye-bye, Exile.